Good morning. Today we're going to be making macaroni and cheese. My kids all call it the best macaroni and cheese. So let's get started and let's see what we're going to have today. So we've got the macaroni on to boil. So now we're going to start with the roux. The roux is the butter and flour and milk that you add the cheese to. It's just the cream sauce that you're going to make. And when the macaroni's done, we mix it all together. So in front of me you can see that I have 3 different types of milk. You can use any of these or a combination of these. We have evaporated milk. In this case, I have 2% milk. You can use whole milk, non-fat milk, 1% milk. If you're using silk milk, I recommend using a little bit of salt because it adds some sweetener to it, and the salt takes the sweetener away. I have mozzarella cheese. I have previously frozen cheddar cheese. I have what they call little kids cheese, which is the old-fashioned box macaroni and cheese, but I buy it in a package of just the powdered cheese, the butter and the flour, and some Mexican cheese. Now you can use any kind of cheese you want. I call this my go-to meal because anytime the stores have cheese on sale, I buy extra and throw it in the freezer. So anybody wants mac and cheese, I always have everything ready to go. Okay, now we're just going to add the 3 tablespoons of butter, add 3 tablespoons of flour. Now this is equal amounts of butter and flour to make the roux. Now if you want a thinner roux, you use less flour. If you want a thicker roux, you use more flour. But for macaroni and cheese, it's usually equal amounts. Now if you're making gravy, then you use less flour. But the roux is all these the basics. Now that the butter has melted all the way, we add the flour. And then again, it's 3 tablespoons of flour. This is matching the 3 tablespoons of butter. And it's going to get really thick for a minute, and then we're going to add the milk to it, which will now start the sauce. So it just clumps all together, and then so you got to continuously stir, and we're going to start adding the milk to it. Okay, so in this I showed you where it was gotten lumpy. I had used like 1.5 cups of 2% milk, and that was the end of the milk that I had. So I'm now going to add some almond milk because this is way too thick, and we need enough to make enough for all the macaroni and cheese. So I'm going to add about 1 cup of milk of almond milk. I'm also going to add a little bit of salt to it to take the sweetness away. Unless you like it sweet, you can leave it that way. All right, our roux sauce looks really good. I'm going to pick it up and show you it's fairly thin. So we added about 2.5 cups of milk to our 3 tablespoons of flour, 3 tablespoons of half a cup of powdered cheese. We'll stir that in, and then we're going to start adding the cubes of cheddar cheese. And it takes longer to melt because it's in cubes rather than shredded. So we'll start adding that. And as you notice, it starts getting thicker and thicker. And if it gets too thick, you can always add some more milk because you want it real creamy when you add it to the macaroni and cheese, because we're going to bake it and turn it brown on the top so it has a nice firm texture on the top. Now we're going to start adding, we have like 2.5 cups of cheddar cheese in chunks. And it melts fairly quickly. We'll add it all in and stir it up until it all melts. Almost time for the macaroni to come out. It's almost done. You can test it now, but my timer hasn't gone off yet. Well, I've strained the macaroni. It was done, and I've got it sitting on top of the pot in case any water leaks out of it. We'll just leave it over here, and we'll go back over the stove and add the rest of the cheese. So I'm going to add the Mexican cheese to it now. There's 1 cup of that. And I'm going to add about half of the mozzarella cheese. Half's going to go on the top when we pour it into the baking pan. And this will melt really quick because it's already shredded. So while it's melting, I'm going to turn around real quick, grab my baking pan, and I'm going to spray it because we don't want anything sticking to the bottom of it. Okay, spraying your baking pan quickly with some whatever spray you have, and we're done with that. And we're going to mix the macaroni and cheese. Now at this point, you'll see it still looks really thick and chewy with the cheese. I would like it a little thinner, so I'm going to add a little more milk. So you can do it at any time you want. Okay, here goes a little more almond milk because I like mine a little thinner because when it sits in the oven for a while, it gets thicker again. The mozzarella cheese is what makes it stringier. So if you don't like it stringy like that, don't use mozzarella. Use all your other hard cheeses. So we've ended up putting probably another cup of milk into it. So we've ended up with like four cups of milk to 4.5 cups. And that looks perfect. All right, the macaroni and cheese sauce is done here. What we're going to do now is turn on the oven. I have a convection oven, and we're going to make sure that we use the bake on the right-hand side because we don't want it on convection, and we want it on 350. So I'm going to hit start. Take the last of our mozzarella cheese. And remember, I said mozzarella cheese is what makes it stringy, so if you don't like it stringy, don't use very much or don't use it at all, and use a different type of cheese on the top. Okay, the oven has beeped at us. It's now set at 350, so we're ready to add the macaroni. And we'll set it right in on the middle rack because we don't want it to brown too fast. And I'm going to set the timer for about 20 minutes, and we'll check it and see what happens. Well, the beeper's going off. Let's see if we got it brown enough, and let's see what's going on down here. Okay, you can see it's starting to boil a little bit, so it's not browned at this point. So we actually need probably another 10 minutes. Okay, timer's going again, and we reset it again, so we went like 40 minutes on this. This one is just barely brown, and this is the way I like ours. So it's just perfect at this point. I have to grab my pot holders, and we'll grab it, pull it out. Really hot, and remembering that cheese has a lot of oils in it, so please be very, very careful. Let it cool for a little bit. But let's grab a spoon and see what it looks like. See the color of the brown, which is perfect. It's a little crispy on top. And we'll grab a little spoon here and just kind of see what it looks like. It looks really good, but it's way too hot to taste right now. So I'm going to let it sit for about 10 minutes. And then we'll take a bite. Well, okay, it's cooled off enough now. I'm going to try it, bite, and see if it came out okay. Oh, that's good. That's really good. It's a little hot, but it's really good. Thank you, everybody, for watching my homemade mac and cheese recipe. Feel free to comment below if there's anything you would like to see me make my own version of. I hope you all enjoyed. If you did, please like and subscribe to keep up with future cooking content. Thank you again, and come see us soon.